Have you ever wondered why some people seem so at peace, so grounded, no matter what life throws at them? It's like they've found a secret well of inner strength that never runs dry. Well, here's a surprise. Their secret isn't about what they've gained, but what they've let go. You see, becoming more spiritual often means shedding things, not collecting them. It's a bit like cleaning out your closet. Sometimes you need to get rid of the old to make room for the new. But here's the catch. This isn't a quick spring cleaning. It's a slow, thoughtful process of letting go, one that highly spiritual people have mastered over time. Now, when we talk about highly spiritual people, what do we really mean? These aren't folks walking around with halos or living in mountaintop retreats. They're regular people like you and me, but with a twist. They've learned to tune into something bigger than themselves, to see the world through a different lens. They're the ones who seem to have this inner glow, a sense of purpose that goes beyond the day-to-day grind. They're not perfect, far from it, but they've found a way to navigate life's ups and downs with a sense of grace and wisdom that sets them apart. Here's the thing about spiritual growth. It's not a sprint. It's more like a leisurely stroll through a beautiful, winding path. It takes time, patience, and a whole lot of self-reflection. These highly spiritual people, they've been on this path for a while, and along the way, they've learned that to move forward, sometimes you need to leave things behind. It's like packing for a long journey. You can't take everything with you, so you need to choose wisely what to keep and what to let go. Today, we're going to peek into their journey and look at 6 things that spiritual people slowly, but surely, remove from their lives. These aren't things they dramatically toss out overnight. No, it's more like they gently set them down along the path, realizing that these things no longer serve them on their spiritual journey. It's a process of gradual release, of slowly opening their hands to let go of what they once thought they needed. So, what are these 6 things that highly spiritual people gradually quit? Let's take a quick look before we dive deeper. First, they let go of the need to always be right. Next, they release the habit of judging others. Third, they ease away from the constant pursuit of material possessions. Fourth, they loosen their grip on past regrets and future anxieties. Fifth, they step back from the need for constant external validation. And finally, they move away from the belief that they're separate from the world around them. Now, I know what you might be thinking, that's a lot to let go of. And you're right, it is. But remember, this isn't about sudden, dramatic changes. It's about small, consistent steps in a new direction. It's about slowly shifting your perspective, bit by bit, day by day. These highly spiritual people didn't wake up one morning and decide to change everything about themselves. They simply started noticing what wasn't working in their lives and began the gentle process of letting those things go. As we explore each of these 6 things, you might find yourself nodding along, recognizing behaviors or thought patterns in your own life. That's good. Awareness is the first step on any journey of change. You might even feel a little uncomfortable at times, and that's okay too. Growth often comes with a bit of discomfort. But don't worry, we're not here to judge or to say you need to change everything about yourself. We're just here to explore, to learn, and maybe to find a few nuggets of wisdom that resonate with you. So, are you ready to take a walk down this spiritual path? To peek into the lives of those who found a deeper sense of peace and purpose? Great. Let's start our journey by looking at the first thing that highly spiritual people slowly but surely let go of, the need to always be right. Picture this. You're in a heated discussion with a friend. Your heart's racing, your voice is getting louder, and you're pulling out every fact you can remember to prove your point. Sound familiar? We've all been there. It's that burning desire to be right, to win the argument at all costs. But here's the thing. Highly spiritual people have learned to let this go, and for good reason. You see, always needing to be right is like carrying a heavy backpack everywhere you go. It weighs you down, creates tension in your relationships, and honestly, it's exhausting. Spiritual people have realized that being right isn't always what's most important. They've learned to value harmony, understanding, and growth over winning every debate. So how do they do it? Well, it starts with a shift in perspective. Instead of seeing every disagreement as a battle to be won, they see it as an opportunity to learn. They become curious about other viewpoints, even if they don't agree with them. It's like they're collecting pieces of a big puzzle, and each person they talk to might have a piece they're missing. Let me give you an example. Meet Sarah, a lawyer who used to pride herself on winning every argument, both in and out of the courtroom. She was known for her sharp tongue and quick comebacks. But over time, she noticed that while she was winning debates, she was losing friends. People started avoiding deep conversations with her, afraid they'd end up in a heated argument. One day, during a meditation retreat, Sarah had a realization. She saw how her need to be right was actually pushing people away and closing her off from new ideas. From that day on, she made a conscious effort to listen more and argue less. When she felt the urge to prove someone wrong, she'd take a deep breath and ask herself, is being right more important than being kind or learning something new? It wasn't easy at first. Old habits die hard, after all. But slowly, Sarah noticed a change. Her conversations became richer, her relationships deeper. She found herself learning things she never would have if she'd been focused on proving her point. And the best part? She felt a sense of peace she'd never experienced before. Now, if you want to try letting go of the need to always be right, here's a simple tip to start with. Next time you're in a disagreement, try saying, "That's an interesting point. I hadn't thought of it that way before. Can you tell me more?" This simple phrase opens the door to understanding, shows respect for the other person's view, and might just teach you something new. Remember, letting go of the need to be right doesn't mean you never share your opinion or stand up for what you believe in. It just means you hold those opinions a little more lightly. You become open to the possibility that you might be wrong, or that there might be more than one right answer. As you practice this, you might notice something interesting. When you're not focused on being right, people are more likely to listen to what you have to say. It's like a door opens in the conversation, allowing for real exchange and growth. And isn't that what we're all after? To grow, to learn, to understand each other better? Letting go of the need to always be right is just the first step on our journey. It sets the stage for the next thing highly spiritual people learn to release, the habit of judging others. But before we move on to that, take a moment to reflect. How often do you find yourself in the heat of an argument, more concerned with winning than understanding? How might your life change if you could let go of that need, even just a little bit? We've all done it. You're walking down the street, sitting in a cafe, or scrolling through social media, and before you know it, you're making snap judgments about the people around you. Look at what she's wearing. He shouldn't eat that. They're so irresponsible. It's almost automatic, isn't it? But here's where highly spiritual people have made a significant shift. They've learned to let go of this habit of constant judgment. Now, you might be thinking, but isn't it natural to make judgments? How else do we navigate the world? And you're right to some extent. We all make assessments about our environment and the people in it. It's a survival instinct. But there's a big difference between making necessary assessments and falling into the trap of constant, often negative, judgment of others. Spiritual people have realized that this habit of judging others is like wearing a pair of tinted glasses. Everything you see is colored by your own experiences, biases, and insecurities. And more often than not, these judgments say more about you than they do about the person you're judging. It's like holding up a mirror to your own fears and insecurities. So how do spiritual people start to let this go? It begins with awareness. They start to notice when they're making judgments. They pause and ask themselves, do I really know the whole story here? Am I seeing this person clearly, or am I projecting my own stuff onto them? Let's look at an example. Meet Tom, a busy executive who used to pride himself on his ability to quickly size people up. He thought it made him efficient, a good judge of character. But one day, he had a wake-up call. He was at a team meeting, and he immediately wrote off a new team member as lazy and incompetent based on their relaxed demeanor and casual dress. Later, he found out that this new team member had stayed up all night to finish a crucial project, saving a major client account. Tom was shocked. He realized how close he'd come to dismissing someone valuable just because they didn't fit his idea of what a good employee looked like. From that day on, Tom made a conscious effort to suspend judgment. When he caught himself making snap decisions about people, he'd stop and remind himself, there's always more to the story. He started asking more questions, listening more deeply, and giving people the benefit of the doubt. It wasn't easy. Tom had to confront some uncomfortable truths about himself, his own biases, his fears, his need for control. But as he practiced, he noticed something amazing. His relationships, both at work and in his personal life, became richer and more authentic. People opened up to him more, and he found himself continually surprised and delighted by the depth and complexity of the people around him. If you want to start letting go of the habit of judging others, here's a simple practice to try. When you catch yourself making a judgment about someone, pause. Take a deep breath. Then, try to come up with 3 possible positive explanations for whatever you were judging. This simple act can open your mind to new possibilities and help you see people in a more compassionate light. Letting go of judgment doesn't mean you become a pushover or that you never form opinions. It just means you hold those opinions more lightly. You become more open to being proven wrong, to being surprised, to learning new things about people and the world around you. As you practice this, you might notice some interesting side effects. For one, you'll probably find that you're judging yourself less harshly too. There's often a direct link between how we judge others and how we judge ourselves. As you become more compassionate towards others, that compassion tends to flow inward as well. You might also find that you feel more connected to the people around you. When you're not constantly creating separation through judgment, you start to see the common humanity in everyone. You begin to understand that everyone is fighting their own battles. Everyone has their own story, and everyone is doing the best they can with what they have. This letting go of judgment is closely tied to our next point, the release of the constant pursuit of material possessions. But before we move on, take a moment to reflect. How often do you find yourself making snap judgments about others? How might your life and relationships change if you could let go of that habit, even just a little bit? Remember, this isn't about becoming perfect overnight. It's about taking small steps towards a more open, compassionate way of being in the world. We live in a world that's constantly telling us we need more. More stuff, more money, bigger houses, fancier cars. It's like we're on a never-ending treadmill of wanting and acquiring. But here's where highly spiritual people have made a radical shift. They've learned to step off that treadmill. They've begun to let go of the constant pursuit of material possessions. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean they've all given away their worldly goods and moved to a mountaintop monastery. It's not about becoming an ascetic or denying yourself every comfort. It's about changing your relationship with material things. It's about realizing that true happiness and fulfillment don't come from what you own, but from who you are and how you live. Spiritual people have come to understand that the pursuit of material possessions is like trying to fill a bottomless pit. No matter how much you acquire, there's always something more to want. It's an endless cycle that never truly satisfies. They've realized that this constant wanting creates a state of perpetual dissatisfaction, always focusing on what you don't have rather than appreciating what you do have. So how do they start to let this go? It often begins with a shift in focus. Instead of constantly looking outward for the next thing to acquire, they start looking inward. They begin to explore what truly brings them joy and fulfillment. They start to differentiate between their wants and their needs, between what society tells them they should have, and what actually aligns with their values and purpose. Let's look at an example. Meet Lisa, a successful marketing executive who used to measure her worth by the size of her paycheck and the brand names in her closet. She was always chasing the next promotion, the next big purchase that she thought would finally make her happy. But no matter how much she earned or bought, she always felt like something was missing. Then, during a volunteering trip to a developing country, Lisa had a profound realization. She met people who had very little in terms of material possessions, but seemed to have a joy and contentment that she'd been chasing her whole life. It made her question everything she thought she knew about success and happiness. When she returned home, Lisa started to make changes. She began decluttering her home, keeping only the things that truly brought her joy or served a purpose. She started spending her money on experiences rather than things: travel, learning new skills, spending time with loved ones. She even turned down a high-paying promotion to take a job with a non-profit organization that aligned with her values. It wasn't an easy transition. Lisa had to confront her fears about status and security. She had to deal with the judgments of friends and family who didn't understand her choices. But as she continued on this path, she found a sense of freedom and fulfillment she'd never experienced before. She realized that by letting go of the need for more stuff, she'd made room for more life. If you want to start loosening your grip on material possessions, here's a simple practice to try. For the next week, before you buy anything that's not a necessity, ask yourself, will this truly add value to my life? Will it bring me lasting happiness? If the answer is no, try letting it go. You might be surprised at how liberating it feels to say no to unnecessary purchases. Remember, letting go of the pursuit of material possessions doesn't mean you can't enjoy nice things or strive for financial security. It's about changing your relationship with material goods. It's about realizing that they're tools to enhance your life, not the source of your happiness or worth. As you practice this, you might notice some interesting changes. For one, you might find that you have more resources, time, money, energy to devote to things that truly matter to you. When you're not constantly chasing the next purchase, you have more space in your life for relationships, personal growth, and meaningful experiences. You might also find that you feel a greater sense of gratitude for what you already have. When you're not always focused on what you lack, you start to appreciate the abundance that's already present in your life. This gratitude can be a powerful force, creating a positive cycle of contentment and joy. This shift away from material pursuits is closely tied to our next point, letting go of past regrets and future anxieties. But before we move on, take a moment to reflect. How much of your time and energy is spent pursuing or thinking about material possessions? How might your life change if you could let go of some of that pursuit, even just a little bit? Remember, this isn't about depriving yourself or judging your desires. It's about finding a balance that brings you true fulfillment and peace. Imagine your mind as a time machine, constantly bouncing between memories of the past and worries about the future. Sound familiar? For many of us, this mental time travel is a daily reality. We replay old mistakes, wondering what if, or we fret about what might go wrong tomorrow. But highly spiritual people have learned a powerful secret: the art of letting go of past regrets and future anxieties. Now, this doesn't mean they've somehow erased their memories or stopped planning for the future. Instead, they've changed their relationship with time. They've learned to live more fully in the present moment, understanding that the past is unchangeable and the future is unknowable. This shift isn't about forgetting or ignoring, but about freeing yourself from the emotional weight of regrets and worries. So how do spiritual people begin to release this mental baggage? It often starts with acceptance. They accept that the past, with all its mistakes and missed opportunities, cannot be changed. They accept that the future, with all its possibilities and uncertainties, cannot be controlled. This acceptance doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a gradual loosening of the grip these thoughts have on their minds. Let's look at an example. Meet David, a middle-aged teacher who used to be haunted by a career decision he made in his 20s. He turned down a promising job opportunity abroad, choosing instead to stay in his hometown. For years, he tortured himself with what-ifs, convinced that his life would have been better if he'd made a different choice. At the same time, he was constantly anxious about his future, worrying about everything from his retirement savings to potential health issues. David's turning point came during a mindfulness retreat. There, he learned to observe his thoughts without getting caught up in them. He started to notice how much time he spent mentally reliving the past or rehearsing for the future, and how little time he spent fully engaged in the present moment. He realized that all this mental time travel was robbing him of the joy and opportunities right in front of him. From that point on, David made a conscious effort to catch himself when his mind wandered to past regrets or future worries. When he noticed these thoughts, he'd gently bring his attention back to the present moment. The feeling of his breath, the sound of the wind in the trees, the warmth of the sun on his skin. He started keeping a gratitude journal, focusing on the good things in his life right now. It wasn't easy at first. Years of habit aren't broken overnight. But slowly, David noticed a change. He found himself more engaged in his work, more present with his family and friends. He still remembered the past and planned for the future, but these thoughts no longer dominated his mind. He discovered a sense of peace and contentment that he'd never experienced before. If you want to start letting go of past regrets and future anxieties, here's a simple practice to try. Set aside 5 minutes each day for a mini meditation. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. When you notice your mind wandering to the past or future, gently bring your attention back to your breath. Don't judge yourself for these thoughts. Just notice them and let them go. With practice, you'll find it easier to stay present throughout your day. Remember, letting go of past regrets and future anxieties doesn't mean you never reflect on your experiences or plan for what's ahead. It's about finding a balance, about not letting these thoughts control your life or rob you of the present moment. It's about understanding that true peace and happiness can only be found in the here and now. As you practice this, you might notice some profound changes. You might find yourself more relaxed, more able to enjoy life as it unfolds. You might discover a newfound ability to handle challenges as they arise, rather than worrying about them in advance. You might even find that you make better decisions, because you're more tuned into the present reality rather than past regrets or future fears. This ability to live in the present moment is closely tied to our next point, letting go of the need for constant external validation. But before we move on, take a moment to reflect. How much of your mental energy is spent on past regrets or future anxieties? How might your life change if you could let go of some of that mental time travel, even just a little bit? Remember, this isn't about never thinking about the past or future. It's about finding a balance that allows you to live more fully in the present moment. We live in a world of likes, shares, and constant feedback. From social media to performance reviews at work, it often feels like our worth is measured by how others perceive us. But highly spiritual people have discovered a profound truth. True self-worth comes from within, not from the opinions of others. They've learned to gradually let go of the need for constant external validation. Now, this doesn't mean they've become completely indifferent to what others think. We're social creatures, after all, and relationships are important. What it means is that they've stopped basing their self-worth and happiness on the approval of others. They've learned to trust their own inner compass, to value their own thoughts and feelings, even when they don't align with popular opinion. So how do spiritual people begin to release this need for external validation? It often starts with self-awareness. They begin to notice how much of their behavior is driven by the desire for approval or fear of disapproval. They start to question whose standards they're trying to meet, their own or someone else's. This awareness is the first step towards change. Let's look at an example. Meet Emma, a young artist who used to obsess over the number of likes her work received on social media. She'd spend hours crafting the perfect post, then anxiously check her phone every few minutes to see the response. If a piece didn't get as much attention as she hoped, she'd feel crushed, doubting her talent and worth as an artist. Emma's turning point came after a conversation with a mentor. This experienced artist asked Emma a simple question. If you were the only person who ever saw your art, would you still create it? This question hit Emma hard. She realized she'd become so focused on external validation that she'd lost touch with her original love for art. From that day on, Emma made a conscious effort to reconnect with her intrinsic motivation. She started keeping some of her favorite pieces private, creating just for the joy of it. When she did share her work, she practiced detaching from the response. Instead of obsessively checking likes and comments, she'd post and then put her phone away, focusing instead on starting her next piece. It wasn't an easy transition. Emma had to confront her fears of not being good enough and her dependency on others' approval. But as she continued this practice, she noticed a profound shift. Her art became more authentic, more daring. She found herself taking creative risks she never would have before. And ironically, as she became less dependent on external validation, her work began to resonate more deeply with others. If you want to start letting go of the need for external validation, here's a simple practice to try. The next time you accomplish something you're proud of, big or small, take a moment to acknowledge it yourself before sharing it with others. Give yourself a mental pat on the back, or write down what you're proud of in a journal. Practice being your own cheerleader, rather than always looking to others for approval. Remember, letting go of the need for external validation doesn't mean you never care what others think or that you never seek feedback. It's about finding a balance, about valuing your own opinion as much as, or more than, the opinions of others. It's about building a strong internal foundation of self-worth that isn't easily shaken by external judgments. As you practice this, you might notice some interesting changes. You might find yourself making decisions more easily, trusting your own judgment rather than constantly seeking others' opinions. You might feel more authentic in your relationships, able to express your true thoughts and feelings without fear of disapproval. You might even find that you're more compassionate towards others, because you're no longer comparing yourself to them or seeking their validation. This inner sense of self-worth is closely tied to our final point, letting go of the belief in separation from the world around us. But before we move on, take a moment to reflect. How much of your behavior is driven by the need for approval or fear of disapproval? How might your life change if you could let go of some of that need for external validation, even just a little bit? Remember, this isn't about becoming completely indifferent to others. It's about finding a balance that allows you to value your own worth and live more authentically. Have you ever felt completely alone, even in a crowded room? Or looked at the world around you and felt like an outsider, separate from everything and everyone? This sense of separation is something many of us experience, but it's also something that highly spiritual people have learned to let go of. They've come to understand a profound truth, that we are all interconnected, part of a greater whole. Now, this doesn't mean they've lost their sense of individuality or personal boundaries. Instead, they've expanded their sense of self to include more than just their individual ego. They've learned to see the connections between all things, to understand that their actions ripple out and affect the world around them, just as the world constantly influences them. So how do spiritual people begin to release this belief in separation? It often starts with a shift in perception. They begin to notice the ways in which they are connected to others and to the world around them. They start to see how their thoughts, words, and actions affect others, and how they in turn are affected by the world around them. This awareness gradually breaks down the illusion of separation. Let's look at an example. Meet Michael, a busy executive who used to see himself as completely separate from his environment. He viewed nature as something to be conquered or exploited, and saw other people primarily in terms of what they could do for him. He lived in a state of constant competition, always trying to get ahead, often at the expense of others. Michael's perspective began to shift during a challenging time in his life. Burnout and feeling isolated, he decided to take a solo hiking trip. Alone in nature for the first time in years, he had a profound experience. As he sat by a mountain stream, he suddenly felt a deep sense of connection to everything around him. The trees, the water, the earth beneath him. He realized that he wasn't separate from nature, but a part of it. This realization began to extend to his relationships with other people. He started to see how his actions affected those around him, and how their well-being was connected to his own. He began to make decisions not just based on what was good for him personally, but what was good for his team, his community, and the environment. It wasn't an overnight transformation. Michael had to confront many of his old beliefs and habits. But as he continued to nurture this sense of interconnection, he noticed profound changes in his life. His relationships deepened, his work became more fulfilling, and he found a sense of purpose and belonging he'd never experienced before. If you want to start letting go of the belief in separation, here's a simple practice to try. Each day, try to perform one act of kindness without expecting anything in return. It could be as simple as holding the door for someone, offering a sincere compliment, or picking up a piece of litter in your neighborhood. As you do this, reflect on how your action might ripple out and affect others. This practice can help you start to see the interconnections between yourself and the world around you. Remember, letting go of the belief in separation doesn't mean you lose your individuality or that you have to agree with everyone and everything. It's about expanding your sense of self, about recognizing that you are part of a larger whole. It's about understanding that what affects one affects all. As you practice this, you might notice some profound shifts in your life. You might find yourself feeling more compassionate towards others, understanding that their struggles and joys are not so different from your own. You might feel a greater sense of responsibility towards the environment, seeing it not as something separate from you, but as an extension of yourself. You might even find a deeper sense of purpose as you begin to see your life in the context of the larger whole. This sense of interconnection brings us full circle, tying back to all the other things we've discussed, letting go of the need to be right, of judgment, of material pursuits, of past and future, and of external validation. When we truly understand our interconnection with all things, these other attachments naturally begin to fall away. As we conclude our exploration of these 6 things that highly spiritual people gradually let go of, take a moment to reflect. How might your life change if you could let go of the belief in separation, even just a little bit? How might it change your relationships, your work, your sense of purpose? Remember, this journey of letting go is not about achieving perfection or reaching some final destination. It's about gradual, continuous growth, about slowly expanding your awareness and your capacity for love and connection. As we've journeyed through these 6 profound shifts that highly spiritual people make, you might be feeling inspired, overwhelmed, or maybe a bit of both. That's completely normal. Remember, spiritual growth isn't about dramatic overnight changes. It's about small, consistent steps in a new direction. So, what's your next step going to be? I'd like to invite you to take action, to start putting these ideas into practice in your own life. But don't try to tackle all 6 areas at once. That's a recipe for frustration. Instead, choose one area that resonates with you the most. Maybe it's letting go of the need to always be right, or perhaps it's releasing the constant pursuit of material possessions. Whatever speaks to you, start there. Here's a simple challenge. For the next week, focus on that one area. Pay attention to your thoughts and behaviors related to it. When you catch yourself falling into old patterns, don't judge yourself. Just notice it, take a deep breath, and gently remind yourself of what you're working towards. Keep a journal of your experiences, what you notice, what challenges you face, what small victories you achieve. And here's where you come in. I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share which of these 6 areas you're going to focus on this week. What drew you to that particular aspect? What do you hope to gain by letting it go? Your share might be just the inspiration someone else needs to start their own journey. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like. It helps others find this content and join our community of growth and self-discovery. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel. We dive into topics like this regularly, always aiming to provide practical, down-to-earth guidance for your spiritual journey. Remember, you're not alone on this path. Every like, every comment, every subscription connects you with others who are on similar journeys. Together, we create a community of support and encouragement. So don't be shy. Reach out, share your thoughts, ask your questions. Your voice matters here. And speaking of community, in our next video, we'll be exploring the power of connection and how it can accelerate your spiritual growth. We'll look at practical ways to build meaningful relationships and create a supportive network that aligns with your spiritual values. You won't want to miss it, so make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications turned on. Before you go, take a moment to reflect on what you've learned today. What's one small step you can take right now, in this very moment, to start letting go of one of these 6 things? It could be as simple as taking a deep breath and reminding yourself that you're connected to everything around you. Or maybe it's looking around and finding one thing to be grateful for right now. Whatever it is, do it now. Because remember, your spiritual journey isn't something that happens someday in the future. It's happening right here, right now, in this very moment. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of spiritual growth. Until next time, keep growing, keep letting go, and keep shining your light in the world. Your journey matters, and the world is better because you're on it. As we wrap up our exploration of 6 things highly spiritual people quit slowly, let's take a moment to reflect on the journey we've taken together. we've delved into some profound shifts that can transform not just our spiritual lives, but our entire way of being in the world. We started by looking at the need to always be right, recognizing how letting go of this can open us up to new perspectives and deeper connections. We explored the habit of judging others, seeing how releasing this can lead to more compassion and understanding in our relationships. We examined the pursuit of material possessions, realizing that true fulfillment comes from within, not from what we own. We then dove into the challenge of letting go of past regrets and future anxieties, learning how to live more fully in the present moment. We confronted our need for external validation, discovering the power of building our self-worth from the inside out. And finally, we explored the belief in separation, recognizing the profound truth of our interconnection with all things. These 6 areas of letting go are not separate, isolated changes. They're all interconnected, each one supporting and reinforcing the others. As you release the need to be right, you may find it easier to let go of judgment. As you let go of the pursuit of material possessions, you might find less need for external validation. As you release the belief in separation, you may find it easier to live in the present moment. Remember, this journey of letting go is not about achieving perfection. It's not about never having these thoughts or feelings again. It's about changing our relationship with them. It's about creating space in our lives for more peace, more joy, more connection. And here's a beautiful truth. As we let go of these things, we're not losing anything. We're gaining. We gain deeper relationships, a clearer sense of purpose, a more profound connection with the world around us. We gain the freedom to be our authentic selves, to live in alignment with our deepest values. This journey of spiritual growth is lifelong. It's not about reaching a destination, but about embracing the path itself. There will be challenges along the way, moments of doubt, times when old habits resurface. That's all part of the process. The key is to approach it all with gentleness, with patience, with self-compassion. As you move forward from here, I encourage you to stay curious. Notice the ways these 6 areas show up in your life. Experiment with letting go, even just a little bit. Be open to the changes that might unfold, both within yourself and in your relationships with others. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Every person you meet is on their own path of growth and discovery. By embracing your own journey, by slowly letting go of these 6 things, you create space for others to do the same. In this way, your personal growth becomes a gift not just to yourself, but to the entire world. So, as we close, I invite you to take a deep breath. Feel your connection to this moment, to the space around you, to the vast web of life of which you're a part. Know that right here, right now, you have everything you need to take the next step on your spiritual journey. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. May your path be filled with discovery, growth, and the joy of letting go. Until next time, keep shining your light in the world. The journey continues, and it's beautiful because you're on it.